Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. The Eye on College Basketball Podcast is presented by Jersey Mike's Subs. Jersey Mike's, a sub above. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please do that while you're here. Okay, let's get into it. And the only place to start, I think, is with the Atlantic Sun Tournament title game, where the Kennesaw State Usses beat the Liberty Thems 67-66 on Sunday afternoon. So Kennesaw State is in the NCAA tournament at the Division I level for the first time in school history. Went 1-28 3 seasons ago. Now they're in the big dance, so perhaps there is hope for Louisville after all. Deadleg, tell us what we need to know about the Usses beating the Thems to advance to the 2023 NCAA tournament.
You know what, Nada? If you got it, I think we got a little audio video. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. That's another reminder. Get in there, smash that like button. Nada, you got this? Cue it up. This is how it went down on Sunday afternoon.
Burden. He does. Tapped around. That's it. It's over. Kennesaw State wins the ASUN championship, and they're going to the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history.
Trivia time.
Okay.
What year did Kennesaw State go D1?
2005, 2006.
He's on it. My man was all in that Wikipedia page by 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Trivia time! Reverse trivia time! Who did Amir Abdur-Rahim replace as Kennesaw
Al
State?
Skinner, you don't even need to ask.
Al Skinner.
Al Skinner was there. This is a really, really good story. And of course, we could only start with this game. Listen, Nada was there in person, saw the Fighting Camels upset and advance into the title game Sunday in the Big South, only for Campbell to blow 15-point lead. It was a big one. It's unfortunate, but UNC Asheville was by far the best program in that conference this season. Congrats to Mike Morrell. We've actually got a few auto bids. So the podcast came desperately close to some real bad vibes here, some down bad vibes, but not Kennesaw State. More of us than there are of them. I have not seen an update from the Kennesaw. Where is this tweet? Did you check in the past hour? Because I haven't. I haven't seen a more of us tweet from Kennesaw State Athletics.
I see hashtag Hootie Hoo, which I love, by the way.
Hootie
Hoo. Hashtag Hootie Hoo.
You know, they had like 6 meetings before they finally decided on Hootie Hoo.
I love Hootie Hoo. Hashtag Hootie Hoo. And I've seen hashtag Bone.
I saw that.
Is that for us, or does that mean something else?
No, that's exactly what we want it to mean.
I don't even, because sometimes people have like words and it stands for something. It's like I don't know, build, organize. You get it. You get what I'm trying to say. Like Bone could
keep going.
Build. Let's make something up for Bone. Build, organize.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Never quit.
Well, you need a Q in there. That's 2 words.
Okay. Build, organize, nourish.
Okay, sure.
And electrify. Bone. Build, organize, nourish, electrify. Bone. So sometimes they hashtag things and it's like, oh yeah, Bone stands for build, organize, nourish and electrify. So it might be something like that. In fact,
opening up the chest and digging for any word in there, and you come up.
I couldn't think of a word that starts with N.
Oh my goodness! All right, Kennesaw State. It's a wonderful story. First time dancer. We get this almost every single season. You get it, and the list is shrinking, but you get Kennesaw State into the field for the first time. Amir Abdur-Rahim, as you mentioned, 1-28, just 3 seasons ago in his first season there, and now they win the ASUN. That's an awesome, awesome deal. More of us than there are of them. Sex remains undefeated, and us got the win. We had to start with that, of course. But with that behind us, we look forward to seeing, I'm going to say, so let me see this right now. Let me check. I'm going to say Kennesaw State blindly. I'm going to say that's a 15 seed. Let me check real quick before we move on to talking UCLA here. Kennesaw State, 15 probably. I don't know. It's had a really, really good season. Coming off 15-3 in the A-Sun, and played Florida tough on the road, played VCU tough on the road, played San Diego State not tough on the road, and actually lost by 14 at Indiana. So it has actually played competitively against Power 5 teams. We look forward to seeing where the Owls, hooty hoo, Owls. 2 of the 4 Owls are going to be flying into the bracket, because FAU is a lock. It's a lock at this point. It's going into the CUSA tournament with 3 losses. Temple going to need a little bit of magic there, and Rice in the same conference as FAU obviously would also need to win the auto bid. But 2 out of 4 Owls ain't that bad. Where do you want to start elsewhere?
Well, first for people who didn't watch the game, like I started to get a little nervous because Kennesaw State was up 7 with 2:54 to go, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like, okay, this is in control, more of us. But then Liberty tied it with a Colin Porter 3 with 24 seconds left. Then Terrell Burden got fouled with less than a second left on a drive, made the first free throw to break the tie, missed the second, game over. But I was watching it. I knew Liberty wasn't gonna be able to win the game, because Liberty has no experience coming from behind.
Okay. Congrats are in order then to Southeast Missouri State with its second bid ever to the NCAA tournament. The first one coming in 2000, is a D1 team for the past 3 decades. Drake, first university ever named after a Seinfeld skit, is on its way to the NCAA tournament. Fairleigh Dickinson is going because Merrimack, which is technically still alive, is not eligible. Fairleigh Dickinson won its semifinal. So Fairleigh Dickinson, which will play for the conference tournament on Tuesday at Merrimack, is getting the auto bid in UNC Asheville. Those are your 5 auto bids. I couldn't possibly have followed up what you just said.
Hooty hoo!
Yeah, exactly.
Hooty hoo! In fact, I think hooty hoo! Let's move on. This weekend's
we're going to television in 2 days, just as a reminder.
Should I bring back that joke?
We'd like to be invited back, sir.
How lame is it that I used 2 minutes to just set that up? And
I was ready to transition right to UCLA. You're like, actually, let me read the play-by-play here as I tee this thing up.
2 minutes to set up a joke that just fell flat.
Tough stuff.
I should have learned from Chris Rock last night. This weekend's game with the 2 highest ranked teams playing each other. It's Arizona at UCLA. We'll get into that next, but first, a word from our partners.
March Madness is almost here. Who's in? Who's out? The answers are revealed on the March Madness Selection Show, March 12th on CBS.
So this weekend's game with the 2 highest ranked teams playing each other, Arizona at UCLA. Bruins enter ranked 4th in the AP poll. Wildcats 8th in the AP poll. Top 10 matchup in prime time on Saturday night. Arizona jumped to a 15-4 lead right out of the gate. Bruins got off to a slow start, but UCLA outscored Arizona 78-58 over the final 34 minutes to win 82-73 inside Pauley Pavilion. So King Cronin, a.k.a. greatest coach in UCLA history, has now won his first Pac-12 title by a full 4 games. I've moved UCLA up to number 2 in the CBS Sports Top 25 and 1. I would have the Bruins as a projected 1 seed right now. Dead leg. Do you believe the Bruins deserve to be projected as a number 1 seed heading into the Pac-12 tournament? Because as of this moment, our colleague and friend Jerry Palm, he disagrees. He still has UCLA as a 2.
Do you have the data available? Because we're going to agree going in. Kansas, it's not a competition. Kansas is a 1 seed. Houston, not a competition right now. Houston clearly a 1 seed. Alabama also there as of now. Bama, of course, lost at A&M and probably going to be a 1 seed no matter what. Although if it lost its first SEC tournament game, let's circle back. So that being said, do you have the comparatives right now between Purdue and UCLA in front of you to help the listener also decide as they check out this segment?
Yeah, let me run you through some of it. Now, obviously, this is you can pull this data in a million different directions and focus in on what you focus in on. I'll just provide you what I tend to care about most. I'm with you. there's really no debate right now that Houston and Kansas should be number 1 seed. So let's just take them and set them to the side and say that we've got 2 more spots for, I think, really at this point, 3 teams. Now, I'm not saying nobody else can get there, although I'm
right now it's not there. Yeah,
but right now it's not really debatable. The top 5 teams in the country, as it pertains to resume: Houston, Kansas, UCLA, Alabama, Purdue in some order. So UCLA right now is 16-4 in the first 2 quadrants. 8 of those wins are quadrant 1 wins, and they have 0 losses outside of quadrant 1. So all of UCLA losses are quad 1 losses. They have 8 quadrant 1 wins. They're literally the only team in the country with at least 8 quadrant 1 wins and fewer than 5 total losses. Really, they're the only team in the country with at least 5 quadrant 1 wins and fewer than 5 total losses. So that's UCLA. Alabama is 16-5 in the first 2 quadrants. So same number of wins, but 1 more loss. They have 1 more quadrant 1 win than UCLA. They have 9 as opposed to 8. And they, like UCLA, also have 0 losses outside of quadrant 1. Purdue, 16-5 in the first 2 quadrants. These are very similar, you're seeing. Same number of wins as UCLA in the first 2 quadrants and Alabama. 1 more loss than UCLA. Same number of losses as Alabama. They, just like Alabama, have 9 quadrant 1 wins. So 1 more than UCLA. But this is the one team out of the ones we're talking about that has a loss outside of quadrant 1. They have a quadrant 2 loss to Rutgers. Now, Houston has a quadrant 3 loss to Temple, but it's just a 2-loss team, and we're not considering them right now. So of UCLA, Alabama, and Purdue each have 1 more quadrant 1 win. UCLA has 1 fewer loss, and Purdue is the only one out of that group with a loss outside of quadrant 1. I acknowledge you can it's debatable, but I think I would have UCLA as a 1, Alabama as a 1 to go with Houston and Kansas, and Purdue right now would be a 2 seed for me, the best 2 seed.
I would go right now, Sunday night. I would go in this order. I would go Kansas as the number 1 overall seed. I would go Houston 2. I would go Alabama 3. Now let me just read back why I'm going to do this. So what you just said here, I'm just going to do the very vitals at the top. UCLA is 16-4 in the top 2 quadrants, 8-4 quad 1. Bama 16-2. Is that right? That's how I typed as you were going. Is that right? 16-2 in the top 2 quadrants for Bama?
No, Alabama's 16-5.
16-5. Sorry about that. 16-5 in top 2 quadrants. That's right. 9-5 in quad 1. It was 16-5 in the top 2 quadrants and 9-4 in quad 1. But it is the only one of those 3 that has a quad 2 loss. Correct?
Yes, you're basically repeating everything I said.
I'm just making sure, and people listen, they're trying to keep up with this as well. So, okay, here's the deal. This is where when you judge the scale, it matters. Alabama's strength of schedule per the net is 9. Purdue is 25. UCLA is 49. Alabama would be in 3rd overall for me right now because the numbers are very even. And strength of schedule, how tough you played the opponents and what you've done does matter. Let me check their strength of records as well real quick here, GP, because this is actually a pretty compelling debate, and it's going to get – this is going to matter a lot once we get to the next few days because you're talking about geographic preference. Would you rather be a 1 shipped off to a different region, or would you rather on some level?
That's I mean, it's not actually a question for Purdue. Like the selection committee is not going to ask Purdue,
right.
But if you're Purdue, you could say, you know what, let UCLA be the 1 out west, and we'll stay Midwest, or we'll stay in our part of the country as a 2 seed, and we're fine with that. We might get to a situation where either Purdue or Alabama doesn't mind being a 2 if it means UCLA is the 1 in the West and they can stay more geographically sensible.
Without a doubt, it's just a matter of what are you preferring here, the travel or the advantage to play closer. And then if you're a 1 seed lower, then the road gets slightly tougher because you'd rather be a 1 than a 2 on balance if the bracket breaks the way you want. And strength of record, Alabama is 2 right now. UCLA is 3. Purdue is 4. Kansas is 1 in strength of record. So I would go Bama 3, and then it comes down to UCLA, Purdue, who's going to have it. UCLA right now in strength of record beats Purdue by 1. In KPI, Purdue is 3. UCLA is 7. In BPI, UCLA is better than Purdue by 3 spots. It's better than Purdue by 4 in KenPom, and it's better by Purdue than 7 spots in Sagarin. The strength of schedule stuff is fairly, it's to me, it's not that drastic. Purdue is 25, UCLA is 49. Non-con wise, Purdue's 94, UCLA is 102. Right now, what do we say every March? The losses have to matter. The loss matters. UCLA has 4 losses. Purdue has 5. And at this point, UCLA has 1 more road win than Purdue. Now, Purdue is 4-0 in neutral. UCLA is just 1-2. Some of that is subject to opportunity with scheduling. It is razor thin. I'm with you. I go UCLA as the final 1 seed, and the Purdue is a firm, strong, best spot on the 2 line overall. In that circumstance, Kansas being the 1, it goes to Kansas City. Houston goes to Louisville. UCLA obviously stays in Vegas. No, Bama. Yeah, and then Bama goes to New York City. That's it goes to the East, and then Purdue, as the best 2, would be shipped off to Louisville in that region. That's how I come down on it. We agree.
Alabama in the media capital of the world. I bet that'll go well.
Yeah, how about that as an oh, by the way aside? But I think that's how they would get shipped if it wound up being that way. But let me say this: week from now, we're gonna have the bracket. Something's gonna break differently. That's not how it's gonna be. But yes, I would have UCLA. It's 6 and 1, half dozen the other. Give me them narrowly right now over Purdue. That was a big time win, avenging the loss to Arizona.
One last thing on UCLA, there was some injury news from the game. Jalen Clark was backpedaling and then reached for his leg. He was helped to the locker room. He was on crutches after the game. Mick Cronin said after the game that he would get an MRI done on Sunday. As of 7:50 p.m. Eastern, the results of that have not been announced or reported. So we don't know what that is, but he's an important player. He averages 13.6 rebounds and 30.5 minutes per game. He's the second leading scorer, second leading rebounder on the team. Again, we don't know how serious the injury is, but if it is serious, I don't want to say it puts a ceiling on what UCLA can do, but losing a key player at this point in the season is never ideal.
I'll just add with this. I would not anticipate UCLA to be fully transparent about the nature of that injury, because if Jalen Clark, and we don't know, but if Jalen Clark is out for the rest of the season, or it's an injury that would debilitate UCLA, that would actually, for me, he might be the best defensive player in the country. So I actually think the margin between Purdue and UCLA is so thin, where if you tell me, oh, you definitely don't have one of the 5 best defenders in the sport anymore on your team, then I would say, well, then Purdue's the better team and they're going to be the 1 seed. So UCLA I would not think that it will disclose that. Jalen Clark does mean that much. I think UCLA can actually still get to a Final Four without him. I think it can, but he's extremely valuable, and we wait to see any kind of update. Hopefully it's not too serious. We obviously don't have that as we speak right now, but thanks for bringing that up, GP. That was an important development over the weekend. I really hope he can go. With him on the floor, that's what makes me say UCLA can win a national championship, because he is definition of a game changer and a super fun player to watch.
There is precedent, by the way, for the committee just saying, you know what, we don't care what your resume is. You lost a key player. We're not giving you the seed that your resume deserves. Most famously, it's Cincinnati when it lost Kenyon Martin in the conference tournament. Clearly on paper, a 1 seed. They got made a 2, and then they lost early. I think, tell me if I remember this correctly, there was a year where Syracuse had an injury to a key player late, and they just, I don't want to say lied, but misled all the way through Selection Sunday so that it wouldn't hurt them.
Yeah.
Is it Arinze Anawaku?
Yes, I think it was Anawaku. That's a great pull. Look at you.
Look at that pull. Remember Arinze Anawaku.
Man, what a pull. I think it was Anawaku, and there was some uncertainty with that. That's going back decade. I feel like it was Anawaku. I think you're bang on with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the rationalization, which is just understood, is if you say definitively he's out, they will judge you accordingly. If you say he's day to day, we still don't know, he may be available for the NCAA tournament, then they have to assume that he might be. And if they assume he might, then you get judged accordingly. So yeah, it is interesting. Mick did say that the MRI would happen today, but he didn't promise that they would announce ever what's going on with Jalen Clark. So maybe that does stay a secret through Selection Sunday, although, we'll see. Meantime, Houston extended its winning streak to 11 games on Sunday. Got a 67-65 victory at Memphis. Jamal Shedd buried a buzzer-beating game winner, but not without controversy inside FedEx Forum. Did he get away with a push-off on Elijah McCadden? If you're watching on YouTube, we'll take a look together. Nada, roll the tape.
Seconds. Shed driving. Looking up. 1 second to go for the win. He got it. The Cougars win it. Number one remains number one on a Jamal Shed jumper at the buzzer. Big time onions.
Okay, let's not debate whether it's a push-off because it's undeniably a push-off.
Is it a big enough one? That's the
I
question.
need you to answer it this way. Is it a push-off that should have been called in that moment? Because it's definitely a push-off.
No.
Can't
I
call
got
it.
no issue with that. I don't. By the way, what an upgrade for the Memphis court. I love that court.
Oh,
That's
God.
so much
it's like,
better. That is awesome.
Yeah. I don't even know that I love the current Memphis court. I just know it's not the old one.
I know.
Hey, how about this? So they built a new massive basketball facility literally 3 minutes from my house on a big patch of land. I won't be surprised if we're covering Peach Jam 3 minutes from my house someday.
Oh, hell yeah. Sleepover. Here we go.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
We have a sleepover at my house.
Yeah, let's do it.
The court, guess what one of the courts is? It's the
the
old
one-
Memphis court, that blue Memphis court, that ugly blue Memphis court is in there.
Unbelievable. But it is a major upgrade. It also felt, obviously you heard it on the call, CBS, Nance and Raft on the call before we even get to the postseason. That was wonderful. It was a minor push off, a really well played game. Memphis would have been a lock. Memphis is probably going to the tournament. I happen to think that if it loses its first American Athletic Conference tournament game, we actually might have to have a discussion if they're going to get into the field. Houston, by winning, Nance even said it afterward. He told one of the local reporters there, this should lock Houston onto the one line. I'm actually not convinced that if they were to lose their first American Athletic Conference tournament game and you had a confluence of other events that bubbled up, but for the purposes of what we saw here on Sunday, really awesome game. I'm sure Kelvin Sampson on some level was happy to see his team pushed in a road environment as they get ready to go into the tournament there because they've run the roost for the most part in that conference this season. And Jamal Shed, that's a good shot, man. We've had a lot of either near makes or outright makes at the buzzer over the past 72, 96 hours, even go back to last week with Desmond Cambridge Jr. and everyone else. So March is in full bloom, and I just didn't have an issue with the no call. I thought it was a really good call. He guarded well, got a little space, wasn't egregious. Bang, buzzer beater. Houston wins. See you in the bracket.
It's like the second time in recent years Houston has beaten Memphis at the buzzer. Remember Tremont Mark hit that long shot?
Yeah.
So that's two of those. Memphis, one way or another, usually plays Houston pretty tight. Even in their past 5 games against each other, I think Houston now has a 3-2 edge in those games. So I'm with you. It was a fun game. Definitely a push off. I don't have any problem with it not getting called there. That rarely gets called in that situation. If you were doing if you turned it over to an officiating Gene Steratore, I'm confident they'd say, well, yes, he pushed off. That's an offensive foul. But it just doesn't get called in that moment too often, all the way back to Michael Jordan Game 6. So I don't mind that. I don't have an issue with it not being called. On Memphis, I think we were at the point where Houston's a lock for a 1 and Memphis is a lock to make the NCAA tournament. Right now, Palm has the Tigers as a 10 seed. That was as of Sunday morning. I can't imagine a buzzer beater loss to literally the number 1 team in the country hurts your resume in any way. I mean, if it does, you're just not doing it right.
Right.
A bubble team losing to the number 1 team in the country should not hurt at the buzzer, should not hurt the resume.
But it doesn't help it. It is a loss.
It doesn't help. It's a loss, but it
Okay.
should not. Here, this is among the biggest complaints I have all the time. When a bracket expert, regardless of who it is, says this team is on the bubble, I'd have them in the field right now. And then they play the number 1 team in the country or some similar team, and they lose by a point or 2, and they say, well, that knocks them out of the bracket. Hold up. What are you talking? They were in, but because they couldn't beat literally the best team in the country, they're out? That doesn't make any sense. So
No, I wouldn't say that. I just think I think others jumped them in the bubble hierarchy. That's all. Because we had a lot of we'll get to that. We had a lot of bubble teams get wins over the weekend. So I just think they got nudged down.
Yeah. Here's where we'll be quick on this.
Okay.
He has Memphis as a 10 seed as of Sunday morning. I would assume on Monday morning, he will also have Memphis as a 10 seed. Either way, the Tigers are now 9-7 in the first 2 quadrants with only 1 loss outside of the first 2 quadrants. They got quad 1 wins over Auburn. That's a neutral. Texas A&M at home. They do have a quad 3 loss at the buzzer to Tulane. By the way, 5 of Memphis's 8 losses on the season are by 3 points or less. 2 of them are OT losses. 3 of them are buzzer beating losses. Like, this team is super close to being like 26-5 instead of 23-8, but whatever. They still appear headed to the NCAA tournament for the second straight year, because, like, let me even walk you through it. Worst case scenario, like, they're going to play the winner of the 7-10 game in the quarterfinals of the AAC tournament. Even if they were to take a quad 3 loss in the quarterfinals, which would be the most reasonable worst case scenario for them, they're still going to be 2 games above 500 in the first 2 quadrants with 2 quadrant 1 wins. And at that point would have 2 quadrant 3 losses. For whatever it's worth, the last team Jerry Palm had in the field on Sunday morning is Michigan. And that Michigan team, even before Sunday afternoon's loss to Indiana, was 5 games under 500 in the first 2 quadrants, with 1 additional loss falling in quadrant 4. Like, if on this Sunday, 5 games under 500 in the first 2 quadrants still gets you in the field, which was the case this morning according to Jerry Palm, then Memphis's worst case scenario should still have it in the field on Selection Sunday. So I assume that the Tigers will be in. I don't think on Selection Sunday, regardless of what happens between now and then, that you're going to be able to find 36 better at-large candidates than Memphis.
I agree with you. Memphis will play the winner of UCF SMU. If SMU were to beat UCF and then beat Memphis, I just think they might sweat a little bit and might be headed toward Dayton. They've got an interesting resume, and weirdly enough, the road win at Vanderbilt continues to age well, and that could be the thing that really gets them over the edge. But I fully anticipate Memphis to win 2 games in the American Athletic Conference tournament and help its case overall, and Penny to get back to the NCAA tournament. Since we're on this topic, can I just run you through the bubble winners, losers before we get to the rest of the results?
Sure.
Okay, here are the bubble winners from over the weekend. I ran these down on the Friday show. All right. And then take it where you want with any of these teams or any of these takeaways. Auburn, lock. Beat Tennessee, quad 1 win. It's in. No doubt about it. West Virginia, now a lock. Beat K-State, quad 1 win. Both those teams were on their home floors against quad 1 teams and arguably got their best wins of the season. Congrats to Bruce Pearl's Tigers. Congrats to Bob Huggins' Mountaineers. You're both going to the tournament. Florida Atlantic, as I said earlier, lock. Beat Louisiana Tech on the road. Only has 3 losses. It's a single-digit seed right now. I think I'd have FAU on the 7 line when you really dig into that resume. Looking very, very pretty right now. Oklahoma State is not in for sure, but maybe they got an intriguing resume. We will get to that later in the week, depending on what the Cowboys do. It did get a Q1 win against Texas Tech. We'll get to the Red Raiders in just a minute here, but had to have it win. They're a bubble winner. Utah State. I think Utah State should be in as of now. Beat Boise State for its first quad 1 win. Has good metrics. A very intriguing debate can be built around Utah State's resume and what we would do with that versus, 2 or 3 other power conference teams right near the cut line. I would have Utah State in, and I would have them in even with a little bit of room to spare after getting the Boise State win. USC won after 1 a.m. on Sunday morning. I stayed up till the very end. I was fading heavy, but I watched it until the bitter end. Beat Arizona State. Trojans are in the field for now. Penn State won at the buzzer over Maryland on Sunday. And in ironic fashion, as many people pointed out on Twitter, Penn State is the worst offensive rebounding team in the country. Actually, it's a pretty good 3-point shooting team. 3-pointer misses. Cam Winter, for the second time, saves Penn State, puts it back in, overcomes, 12-point deficit in the final few minutes there. Humongous. I think Penn State might need to be in the field right now. Vandy, it's not in, but it has built a resume that will deserve a hard look. With it's got to get at least 1 more SEC tournament win. Doors beat Mississippi State. Just keep an eye on Vanderbilt. They're sneaky. A couple wins, and we really could have some intriguing bubble chaos along the cut line. And then Clemson just kept itself in the conversation by blowing out Notre Dame. Clemson has more work to do. Very polarizing resume. Bubble losers, Mississippi State lost to Vandy, so it's in a vulnerable spot. Nevada is on the outside looking in. You cannot lose at home to UNLV. You might have had a situation here where Utah State, Nevada, they flipped on the Mountain West. Memphis losing at the buzzer is, minimal bubble inclusion, but I felt they were a fringe mention. Arizona State because they lost. And then Michigan, shortly before we went live here on Sunday night, Michigan again goes to double OT, had some good opportunities, but, and you and I both, like the idiots we are, we picked this team to make the NCAA tournament when we talked on Friday.
I didn't.
I thought you did.
No, I said they have road games at I
thought like you, like me, we both picked Michigan, and then we were like, but they're going to lose at Indiana. I thought we both said that.
I can't remember what I said.
You owe me money. They lost in OT at Indiana and then double OT at Illinois. It's their 3rd straight OT game. Tough spot there. And as we speak, there's one more bubble game. You got to explain to these people why we didn't wait on Northwestern versus Rutgers, because it's going down right now at Jersey Mike's Arena. Northwestern up 16-12. This game,
live in
dude,
progress podcast reporting.
Dude, are we not live to the people watching? Hey, YouTube, come on, do the thing.
Hey,
exactly. How about this?
YouTube.
Exactly. Are you gonna hey YouTube on TV when there is no YouTube?
I think I might. You know,
all right, that's what I want.
I might.
If Northwestern wins this game, it's going to be second in the Big Ten tournament. And if it loses, it's going to be ninth. Amazing.
That's hilarious.
Dude, second versus ninth is based on one game. That's all you need to know about the Big Ten. Rutgers is Northwestern's not the bubble team in this situation. Rutgers is the other bubble team. The only other game I didn't really account for here. Would highly advise, particularly if you listen to our Friday segment when we evaluated those Big Ten resumes, I would have Rutgers unquestionably out of the field if it does lose this home game against Northwestern. That's your bubble recap. Thoughts, takeaways on any of that stuff, GP?
Cam Winter having back-to-back buzzer beaters is awesome. I mean, he literally might have flipped Penn State's entire season. Like, if he doesn't make those shots, they'd be definitely on the wrong side of the bubble right now. He makes them, and I think they're definitely on the right side of the bubble right now. I know that at some point last week on Inside College Basketball, CBS Sports Network, I said I didn't think Michigan would make the NCAA tournament, but I could have changed my mind by Friday.
I think you did, and if you didn't, that's on me. I was wrong, but I thought we agreed to it, but I could be wrong.
Did you mention and you mentioned Northwestern could be the 2 seed or the 9? A little bit similar situation. ACC final Saturday of the regular season. Miami could have. I mean, Pitt could have won a share of the ACC title, but because Pitt lost at Miami, Pitt's now the 5 seed, I believe, in the ACC tournament. Virginia and Miami are co-ACC champs. You mentioned a lot of bubble team. Did you mention bubble team North Carolina?
I didn't, because I was saving. That was the one that was like, I figured you might want to get to that on your own little thing, or Nada told us it was going to happen, and it did, and well, I mean, if we're talking bubble teams, this seems like the appropriate place to talk about North Carolina, or maybe not even, because what do we describe as a bubble team? It's a team with a realistic shot to still build an at-large resume. Is that more or less the definition of a bubble team? Like, you're right there. Is North Carolina still a bubble team? Is there any way North Carolina can get an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament now? I think I'm not saying it's going to happen. I had to talk about this in studio on HQ on Saturday night. If Carolina, let me bring up this bracket here. If Carolina, because it's got to face Virginia if it moves along, bringing up the brackets. If UNC, and by the way, now I'm going to send this over to you. Put this on the screen for the folks to see. If we're going to have our conference tournament preview episodes just like we did a season ago. So be on the lookout for that. We got them coming for you Monday and Tuesday. ACC regrettably included. So the ACC tournament bracket right now, UNC is the 7th seed. It will need to beat BC or Louisville. Then it will need to beat Virginia. Then it will need to beat most likely Clemson or NC State. To do that, it would be into the ACC title game. If it beats Virginia and then beats Clemson or NC State, and really NC State would be the team you'd prefer at that point, I guess, from a resume perspective. I actually don't know if it would be the difference between quad 1 or quad 2.
It would. I looked it up. If you're North Carolina, you now want the only quad 1 opportunity available to you at that point would be a game with NC State.
You need those two. If you get 2 more quad victories, and then you play competitively and lose that Saturday night to, say, Duke or Miami, then I think we can actually debate it, but they have to get to that point. Anything short of that and get the hell out of here. So, and I don't think they're going to get there. We're done. Like, we're done with this. So we brought Leaky Black on in the preseason. You see what happened. The podcast went podcast again.
Yeah, honestly, if you're a SID, you should never let one of your players come here again. I mean, odds are we will not even invite them or want them. But on the off chance that we do, politely reject our request, because it has gone terribly for North Carolina. By the way, Caleb Love, 3 of 12 from the field, 0 of 6 from 3. I saw you tweet when he missed it.
I said you'd rather have RJ Davis. It's not even arguable. Anyone that has followed Carolina, particularly Carolina fans, know they've watched over the past 2 years, with the exception of Caleb Love going bonkers last year in the tournament. RJ Davis has been the better big play, big moment player when that has actually materialized for UNC. It's not even close.
I agree with you. I agree with you. The problem, of course, is that You know who disagrees with you on who should be taking that shot?
Caleb Love.
Caleb Love. Caleb Love is taking that shot. I knew he was taking that shot. And it wasn't even close. I think we both took the over on 30% shooting from the field on Friday's episode. Caleb Love, 25% from the field.
I was wrong.
He was under.
He was under.
As you just, so we laid out like worst case scenario for Memphis. Let's lay out best case scenario for North Carolina. And that's basically them picking up 2 quadrant 1 wins on their way to the championship game. It puts them at 9-12 in the first 2 quadrants with 3 quadrant 1 wins. Lose there. Let's say, because if you win there, conversation's over. You're an automatic qualifier. Lose there. Probably 9-13 in the first 2 quadrants with 3 quadrant 1 wins. It might. Maybe. I'm not ruling it out.
Can we just for 90 seconds touch on this topic? Because I have not thought about it, but I'm thinking about it in real time since you brought up the other quad 1, quad 2. How do we feel about bubble teams being multiple games under 500 in the top 2 quadrants? Are we okay with that?
I
don't know.
You better be, because you can't put a field together if you're not.
We can't, right?
You
I
can't
haven't tallied them up. I'm not talking 500. I'm not talking 1. I'm talking like 2 or more under 500.
I can tell you, I really only go out to around 30 or so. And I can tell you that just about everybody in the top 25 and 1 every morning is going to be above 500 in the first 2 quadrants or right at 500 in the first 2 quadrants. So like, and you do run at it. You like Providence is safely in the field, but under 500 in the first 2 quadrants right now. I don't think
Providence that, you know what, that resume, they got to play UConn first. If PC loses, just keep an eye. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're missing it. I'm just saying it's shaky. So your point on them is well taken.
Yeah, I don't think you can build a bracket of what is it, 36 at-larges? I don't think you can get 36 at-larges if you make a rule you have to be 500 in the first 2 quadrants.
Or even 1 under. But to that point,
keep in mind, Jerry Palm did make a bracket, and Michigan, as of this morning, was his last team in. And Michigan, as of this morning, was 5 games under 500 in the first 2 quadrants.
I can't accept that. I don't accept it.
Take it up with Jerry Palm, man. You have his number. Take it up with Jerry Palm.
I'm not ringing up Jerry Palm. Okay, I'm just saying, if you are 5 games under 500 in the top 2 quadrants, I can't justify you being in the field. Utah State is 9-5, comparatively speaking. Memphis 9-7. Look at some other teams right now. Like when you get into this, even like Illinois safely in, it's 9-11.
I'm telling you.
Creighton is 9-10 in the top 2 quadrants. It was an in real time thought experiment out loud. Arkansas is going to the tournament. It's 7-11 in the top 2 quadrants. Forget I ever brought this up. This is outrageous. This is outrageous.
Everybody stinks.
What are we talking about here?
Everybody stinks except for UCLA and Kansas.
It really is that kind of year. I'll say this as a broad qualifier. If you're more than 2 games under 500 in quad 1 and 2, and you have multiple quad 3 or quad 4 losses, then get out of my face forever.
You better cut the tournament field down to 32 then.
I want to know who's in the field where that applies. 2 or more under 500 in the top 2 quadrants, and they have multiple Q3, Q4 losses. Is there someone in the field that applies to that? Because I don't think there's any justification ever for that.
I would be.
I don't think that's true out there. Maybe it's Providence. Let me check Providence right now.
What about Michigan?
Hold on. Providence is 6-9, 1 Q3 loss. Doesn't have 2. Michigan right now. I'm bringing it up. Michigan is 8-14 in the top 2 quadrants and has 1 quad 4 loss. You're done. See ya. They got to win at least 2, and they might need 3 Big Ten tournament wins. You cannot justify that. They've had 15 opportunities against quad 1, and they're 3-12. Get out of my face. I'm sorry. Not in the field, and I don't think they should be even the first 4 out at this point.
You're gonna have teams that I think fit that criteria. Let's see here.
All right. Broadly speaking, as you look on this, okay. Particularly, let me bring this up. So Charleston.
Okay, how about you're done with Rutgers then, because they're 9-9 they're 9-9. 9-9 in the first 2 quadrants, 3 quadrant 3 losses.
Yeah, and exactly. That's a heavy dose. Charleston right now, strength of record, top 45 overall. 2-1 in quad 1 and 2. 2 Q3 losses have been great. But I would put Charleston in before Michigan. It's not even a question. Not even a question for me.
You're going to have to take this up with Jerry Palm.
What do you do with Clemson?
I know what I do with Clemson. They lost
Clemson
to
right now.
You can't
Clemson
go to the
is 7-5 in
tournament
the top 2 quadrants. It's got, dude, Clemson has results in all 4 quadrants. It's 4-3 in quad 1, 3-2 in quad 2, 6-2 in quad 3, and 9-2 in quad 4. It's just not good enough. When you have 4 combined bad losses and you play in a power conference and none of your metrics are 45 or better, which is the case right now Sunday night with Clemson, like Michigan, you need at least 2 wins. You just do. Don't lose at South Carolina. Don't lose to Loyola Chicago, and don't lose by 10 at Louisville. That's why Clemson is where it is. You just simply don't lose by 10 at Louisville, and you're probably in the field, to be honest. You're probably in the field if that doesn't happen, but it did, and so they're on the outside looking in.
Should we transition to the Texas Tech news?
Is there anything else from the weekend that we should get to before
Not
we do
really. Like I'm looking, Alabama and Kansas both lost at Texas A&M and at Texas. I still think they're both projected 1 seeds right now. So like they're both outright power conference champions. It matters, but I don't, it gets them closer to being a 2 maybe, although I think Kansas is a lock no matter what. And right now they're both still number 1 seeds. They're both outright conference champions. They just happened to lose their final regular season game. Iowa State snapped a 4-game losing streak with a 15-point win at Baylor. I don't know that I saw that coming.
That was super weird. Baylor laying that egg. TCU no-showed against Oklahoma.
Right.
Providence got run out of the state by Seton Hall. There was heavy, let's just get to the conference tournament energy all around the country this weekend. I think that's fair.
Tennessee dropped to 4-6 in its past 10 with a loss to Auburn. Kentucky, let's give credit. We spent a lot of time talking about Kentucky when they take bad losses. Only fair to mention Kentucky won at Arkansas without Case and Wallace, without Xavier Wheeler. Big win for the Wildcats. They really can control that game from start to finish.
All seriousness, credits to John Calipari and that staff. They did not have a point guard. No Xavier Wheeler, no Case and Wallace. You go on the road. And it was a wild in terms of like the crowd would look like hair on fire. And it was physical. I think there were 52 fouls in that game. Devo Davis got tossed with a pair of technicals. Musselman almost lost his mind when he thought another 5-second call that didn't get called. And Calipari goes in and they have turned it around. That is genuinely impressive. You and I both sat on this podcast multiple times and expressed our doubt over his ability to get this team's act together. Got it together without Wallace or Wheeler. Are you kidding me? Great job out of Antonio Reeves, who's entering the postseason like one of the 10 best players in the country. And even Jacob Toppin showed up in a big way. That's good stuff out of Kentucky. Maybe they're rounding into form right on time like some of those teams from years past.
Texas Tech announced Sunday that it has suspended head coach Mark Adams because of what it described as inappropriate, unacceptable, and racially insensitive comments. According to the school, Adams was encouraging a player, presumed to be an African-American player, to be more receptive to coaching and referenced Bible verses about workers, teachers, parents, and slaves serving their masters. In other words, what we have here is an old white man in a position of power talking to a young black man about slaves serving their masters as he's trying to convince him to be more coachable. That's going to get you every time. That's going to get you every time. Yes or no, Deadleg? Mark Adams will coach another game at Texas Tech, either this season or ever.
I'll say no at this point. The story behind this story is the fact that, and I had 2 sources talk to me about this a few weeks ago. Texas Tech, according to the sports sources I spoke with, certainly quite connected at that university, it was approaching a point where Texas Tech was so bad and a lot of the players in the locker room were so dejected with Mark Adams that there was a real question over whether he would be gone in the middle of the season. At one point, Tech lost 8 straight games from the end of December into January. They got to 10-10. They were 0-8 in the Big 12. And then one at LSU in the SEC Big 12 Challenge, then one at home in OT over Iowa State. I'm of the understanding that gave Adams some slack in terms of not being fired. He does have an expensive buyout, which is how these things go now. But with this now, something, every damn year, Parrish. Like, I remember it's a different scenario, different action, but I remember when Mike Rice got fired from Rutgers thinking, this is the era. You have no excuse to ever behave badly as a head coach. You didn't have an excuse before, but now, like, don't even think that you can get away with this kind of stuff and think that you can hold on to your job. It's not the 1970s. It's not even 1994 anymore. And yet practically every year, like at least one coach in college basketball, more than that, if you look across American sports, like they find themselves in this kind of situation. Like, how are people still not learning to evolve? It's super disappointing. And apparently Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director, was alerted last week, and there were discussions, but they did let Adams coach in the game over the weekend. Tech lost at home to Oklahoma State. There has been turmoil within the program. And so I think if you're asking me to say yes or no, so I'm going to answer your question directly. I think he has coached his last game at that school.
I do too. I think the suspension is setting the groundwork for termination for cause. How about this? Just spirit of transparency. I was texting with somebody in the industry this morning, and like one of the first things they texted was, "Are you hearing Mark Adams is out at Texas Tech?" And they meant out at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "I've heard there's problems there, maybe." And then literally 30 minutes later, Texas Tech announces that they've suspended Mark Adams. So this has already been circulating in the industry that Mark Adams really might not get a year 3 as the head coach of the Red Raiders. Like you said, I don't even know what's appropriate to talk about and what's not, but we both heard like there's some unusual things that have been going on around that program this season. His son is on staff, Luke Adams, as the director of player development. I've heard that has caused some issues within the program. It's been as you and I do throughout the season, you just get in random conversations with people, and it's like, hey, have you heard about this? Or hey, did you hear about that? And constantly this season, people have been saying, do you hear about what's going on in Mark Adams? And do you hear about this at Texas Tech? There's just always been some little stuff there. You would agree with that assessment, right?
I would agree with that, yes.
And so now here we are. And by the way, because I saw some people, obviously Mark Adams thinks this is a good explanation because he like said it publicly when he's trying to explain this. He said, I was just quoting the Bible. Well, like quoting the Bible to justify saying some wild stuff is not a very good rationalization. Like, and I say that I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not. I say this as respectfully as I can say it. Not everybody cares what's in the Bible. And so when you just try to say, well, yeah, I said what I said, but I was just really quoting Bible verses. It's like, okay, but that, you're quoting a book. Like that ain't, you still told a young man he needs to be more coachable because in the Bible, there's verses about, slaves and their master. What? Like we should all be smart enough. Like at this point, you just don't go there ever under any circumstance. And if you don't understand why you can't, then stop trying to understand it and just say, maybe I just can't understand it. Maybe I just can't understand it. I just know I can't do it. Right. Like, I don't understand everything that I know I can't do. Like I don't, I guess I do understand. You'll get the point. I don't technically understand why I can't play golf in lightning. But they tell me it's because you might get struck by lightning.
You understand.
I basically understand. But I just say, okay, I don't need to understand all the dynamics behind lightning. I just know that like when it's out there, you shouldn't be on a golf course. And there are things in life where even it's just like white people in the N-word. Well, it's in reps. If you don't understand why you can't say that word, just trust us when we tell you. You don't need to understand it, but you just can't do it. Just you can't do it. Hitler jokes. Just stay away from them, Just stay away from them. Talking to presumably African-American basketball player and telling him he needs to be more or less, he needs to be more like the slave. And while I'm more like the master, well, that's going to get you. I think he's done there. Now, let me ask you what this other person asked me this morning. You think Chris Beard could go back? I don't.
Come on, man. No,
I don't think so either.
You're gonna no, for many reasons. Don't even need to dive into it, but that thought will permeate around college hoops if and when Adams actually, if he does wind up leaving Texas Tech and that those ties get severed, that will be out there. But you will be able to find highly qualified candidates willing to take that job that don't carry the baggage and history that Chris Beard does.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. But I would love for it to happen. Not because I think Chris Beard deserves a second chance or any of that stuff. Simply because it would be hilarious to watch the same Texas Tech fans who spent the past 2 years trashing Chris Beard have to turn around and then embrace the guy again. Like, it would just be, that'd be fun to watch.
That'd be super awkward.
Yeah. I don't think that happens. I think Texas Tech is looking for a new coach shortly after the end of this season, or whenever their lawyers tell you they can start after termination for cause. And then they'll find somebody, because is it a good job? It's a Big 12 job.
It's a solid job.
It's a solid
job. It's better than it was 10 years ago. It is in better standing, but it's not in the top half of the Big Six. I wouldn't say, but it's got, allegedly some pretty solid facilities, and the fan base, when it gets engaged, it's awesome, but it's a good job, but it's not in the top half of that.
It is a job that somebody left for Memphis not too long ago.
Yeah.
Like, that should tell you something, but I think that was more of a lifestyle thing with Tubby Smith and his wife. I think they didn't want to, I don't want to speak for Tubby, but I think they like the idea of living in Memphis more than they like the idea of living in Lubbock, Texas. That's at least what I was told. Looking ahead, like you've noted, we're going to have conference previews on the 6 big conferences, the Power 5 plus the Big East. We're going to be doing those over the next couple of days. So we'll get to those conference tournaments when we get to those episodes. I guess the biggest thing coming up that's already like on tap and ready to go, West Coast Conference Tournament semifinals set for Monday, BYU versus St. Mary's. It's another us versus them situation.
Do we have reports in from Moraga on their stance?
I don't think there's any doubt that Randy Bennett is one of us.
All right. I can't. I need more precincts to report. I don't know.
All
right.
I don't think there's any doubt that Randy Bennett is one of us. I'll ask him if you want me to.
I need you to.
But I'm certain he is.
Okay.
So we've got a us versus them situation. West Coast Conference Tournament semifinals. BYU in Las Vegas. That's always a tricky situation.
It is.
It
is.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
And where's BYU staying right now? The Orleans? I don't even know. They're
not getting the Orleans, boy. It gets wild down at
I don't know.
At the Orleans.
Orleans, yeah, it's the Orleans, not the Orleans. That's right.
I think they've actually got like a strip club right across the street from the Orleans.
You think, or no? Anyway, San Francisco is going to play Gonzaga.
I think that. I think if you got on Google Maps and did Orleans and then tried to get directions to a strip club, they would say, just walk straight across the street. Okay. I think that's what it would say. So I wouldn't, if I were BYU, that's not where I would be. I'd be out at Foothill.
Yeah, you would.
I'd be way out there near Foothill High School. Then we got San Francisco against Gonzaga.
How'd you say that?
Gonzaga.
No. Like the start of that might have tripped you up.
Do you ever notice people associated with Gonzaga say Gonzaga differently than the rest of us? They put a real emphasis on the G-O-N.
Yeah, like Gonzaga.
Like if you hear Mark Few and Tommy Lloyd say Gonzaga,
yeah.
They say it different. Yeah. They say it differently than we say it. There's a real emphasis on the G-O-N.
Yeah. Whatever you do, it's not Zaga.
Like
it's not
gone.
Zaga. They're not the Zaga.
Most of us say Gonzaga.
Gonzaga, yeah.
They really put an emphasis on the
Gonzaga, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like how Dave Chappelle says Kanye West differently than the rest of us. Like we say Kanye and Dave Chappelle says Kanye. It's a little bit like the way Tommy Lloyd and Mark Few say Gonzaga. So in fact, Tommy Lloyd and Mark Few are the Dave Chappelle of college basketball coaching when it comes to the way they say specific words. That's the point I'm trying to make.
You got there some way, somehow. We're also going to have 2 more auto bids on Monday. So the Sun Belt title game will tip at 7 Eastern on ESPN2, and the SoCon title game tips at 7 Eastern on ESPN. Furman won earlier today, and then what was the other winner? SoCon, Chattanooga, Wofford. Is that game? That game's still ongoing. Not even done yet. So Furman will be favored versus the winner of Chattanooga, Wofford, and then Sun Belt Tournament Championship. You're looking at those games are still not finished as we wrap here. We got Texas State versus Louisiana later tonight. So there will be 2 more auto bids handed out on Tuesday on Monday, and then on Tuesday we've got the Colonial, the Horizon League, the NEC's already decided. We talked about that earlier. The Summit League, and then the West Coast. Now a lot of these conferences still need to finish out games on Sunday and then Monday, so we don't have the matchups for those yet. But point is, by the time Wednesday morning gets here, we will have 6 more auto bids into the field as we slowly but surely build out there. I do enjoy what the WCC has done. It used to be Sunday, Monday, but why not just give them the bump it back one more day? This means, Gonzaga in particular is why they did this. You just have one fewer day to sit around and wait to start playing the NCAA tournament. So we'll see if it's Gonzaga versus St. Mary's. If Gonzaga beats St. Mary's, outside chance, if things break the right way, it could be the final 2 seed. Outside chance.
Oh, I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance Gonzaga could get there.
If you really look at what they've done and they beat St. Mary's again and they do it like definitively, just keep an eye. They're pretty intriguing. And then on Tuesday, I don't know if you have that, just might as well mention the ACC tournament technically gets going on Tuesday. Now the it's not going to be the most appetizing things out there. Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Louisville plays Boston College, I guess, that's the other matchup there. So you got that in addition to just a litany of other conference tournaments that are getting underway on Monday and Tuesday.
Some breaking news from our friend John Rothstein just now. He is reporting Zach Fremantle done for the year. Not coming back for Xavier.
Done for the year?
Out for the remainder of the season. That's 15 points, 8 rebounds a game. Gone. Had not played since January 28th, but if I remember correctly, you broke this news.
I did.
That he was going to be out, and the information at the time, not to question your reporting, like it was literally from Sean Miller's mouth. Sean Miller told you that they expected to have him back maybe by the end of the regular season. If not, then probably by the Big East tournament, but they've now just said, nope, done.
Okay. That's intriguing because, one, Xavier without Zach Fremantle is not the team that it is with him. They just don't have as much dynamism on offense and firepower. They've done well without him, but I actually think a healthy Fremantle on Xavier makes the Musketeers like a fun long shot for a Final Four. And now you will not talk me into any scenario where that happens.
Well, I wouldn't even try.
And Miller previously said that he was on pace to be healthy enough to return by the Big East tournament, as long as it went the way the doctors were going with it. Now, we're doing this in real time here, but Rothstein also tweeted Saturday morning. He tweeted Saturday morning Fremantle had been cleared to return and would be a game time decision. Wow. So we have gone from, and listen, on my end of it, I'll just say, like, at the time, I just didn't feel like it was one source, and I didn't feel like it was worth reporting. I was told that Fremantle was not going to be playing on Saturday, and he did not play. But we have gone from that cleared to play game time decision to out for the remainder of the season, and Fremantle's got a stress reaction. So, that is something to keep in mind as we go to the Big East tournament. I don't have the bracket up in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Xavier is the 2 seed in that bracket.
So that's not great news for the Musketeers.
Looks like one more. Yep. Okay. Here I'm hearing it right here. All right. He's going to have surgery. That's why he's done. So what is going on right now? Okay. He must have tried to give it a go, and there was still enough pain, and then they give it another look. I actually like dealing with the breaking news here live on the pod. But yeah, that is, man, that is a real bummer here for Xavier to not have Fremantle available. And so hey, they'll have to adjust. It's been a good year in year one for Sean Miller. They have overachieved versus expectations, and now just see if you can catch a little bit of magic in Manhattan, and then you get seated where you get seated and make the most of it. If Xavier fans would have taken a tournament appearance and one win in the tournament at the beginning of the year, and I still think that team's capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think definitely capable of a win in the tournament, just based on the seed they'll probably get. It's going to put them in a game that is winnable, but obviously this is a big blow when you think you're going to have this guy and then he's not available. Still, like you said, year one, Sean Miller, good season. If you're talking about guys in the first year at new jobs doing well, that list is Jerome Tang at Kansas State, Sean Miller at Xavier, Dennis Gates at Missouri, Chris Jans at Mississippi State. Are those the four best?
Among the four best, yes. By the way, Nada says apparently St. Mary's is with them in our side chat here. So
what?
Yeah, I'm just letting you know.
It's a them versus them situation?
Them on them. In Vegas, of all spots.
I can't believe you'd go all the way to Vegas just to hang out with another them.
Yep.
You know, I'd just stay home.
Shame.
I was going to hang out
It's
with a
called
bunch
the
of
buddy
them.
system.
The buddy system.
They sit around and they provide like when somebody starts to, it's like having a sponsor. Like when you start to slip up a little bit, you just surround yourself with other people who can tell you, no, don't give in. Stay strong. I know there's a strip club right across the street from the Orleans, but just stay strong. The Llama Whisperer was in the comments.
He was.
Said that he doesn't think there's a strip club right across the street from the Orleans.
Okay.
But there's one near there.
I am not surprised that our commentariat has intel immediate to send back to us.
There's got to be one near there. Hey,
Before
real
we
quick,
get out of here, I feel like GP's getting ready to roll it, but I do want to say a reminder, if you missed Friday's show, we are going to be on CBS Sports Network, the podcast, on Tuesday and Wednesday at 4 Eastern. CBS Sports Network, hour-long show. The clips will also post to YouTube. I guess it's to be determined if these things are actually going to be in the podcast feed. That's not up to GP and I, but I think
they have to be. We got to figure that out. It would be crazy to talk on television on the podcast and not have it in podcast form.
You want to know what's crazy? Nada, you got this graphic for me, Nada? Bring this up. What are we doing here? What is this?
Look how tall I am.
Yeah, you're like 6'1" in this photo.
Yep.
Okay. I understand they wanted to do you a little bit of a solid here and keep us relatively even height. I mean, you're either 6'1" or they're dropping me down to 5'7". This ain't cool. Like, this is not what it is. You are on a fruit crate in this moment.
I was literally standing on a box. That's true.
Yeah, but when you stood on the box, you still weren't even that tall. They photoshopped you. They gave you another 4 inches.
Well, I feel like I deserve it.
You know what? You do. You do. You know what? You did.
I feel like if anybody deserves another 4 inches, it's me. You know?
Feel like you really got to get all of this out before we go on television Tuesday at 4 Eastern.
Oh, I didn't even mean it like that. I meant it sincerely. Like I would like to be 6 foot tall.
I wish I was a little bit taller.
Every time I stand on a box and I realize, you know what? Like this is what the world would look like if I were like 6'6".
I do that to my youngest son. I did it all of like 3 or 4 days ago. I lifted him up. I put him above my head. I was like, how's it feel to be this high? Should I try that with you? Should I just lift you up and be like, hey, how's it feel?
You should lift me up. But like, I mean this, like, I'm not even joking. I stand on a box and it, like, let's say it's you know, whatever. It's a box that's going to get me to around I am standing nose to nose with a man who is 6'6". Do you know how different everything looks up there?
I do.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
you guys see things that I've never seen before.
It's a whole new world.
I don't even see stuff sometimes because I'm way down here.
A new fantastic point of view. We will have conference tournament previews in the feed for you Monday and Tuesday. And listen, we know you love us, or at least you say you do, and we're going to believe you on that. But in an effort to not like completely overload you with our voices for every single episode, we are going to bring some buddies of the podcast, and they're going to be short, quick episodes. A few different voices, plus GP and I, we got a lot of work to do as well in addition to the pod. So you'll get a nice variety of me and GP and good friends of the pod. So be on the lookout for that over the next 48 hours or so.
Okay, before we get out of here, one more thing, and it's non-basketball. So if you hate non-basketball stuff, just turn it off. I don't care.
Okay, I have no idea where you're going with this.
I mentioned the Chris Rock new special last night, and I watched it. I think a lot of people did. It was like live on Netflix. It wasn't like he taped it 2 weeks ago, and it was live on Netflix, 9:00 Central.
I did not watch a
Eastern.
second of it. I think I was where it was happening, but I was not.
Okay, the reason I bring it up is because Nada has been tweeting about it, and
okay.
I don't even know what the controversy. I don't even know. I didn't even take the time to figure out what the controversy is. But Nada seems to be aware of what's the issue. What are people mad about Chris Rock's hour of television Saturday night, Nada?
Of course they're mad.
What are
It's
they
the
mad
internet.
about? Tell me
We're
what they're
always
mad about. I don't even know.
Yeah.
They're mad specifically about the 7-minute part with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, specifically how it seemed to be a little bit more aimed towards Jada than Will.
Why would anybody be mad about that?
It's the internet.
People are crazy. By the way, that whole hour. But Nada, did you think it was good, excellent, bad, okay? What did you think?
Is okay. Like, of the specials, it might be the worst one, but even then, it's Chris Rock, so it's going to be above average for most comedians.
Yeah, I thought it was good. By the way, it was the same hour, 10 minutes that he did in Memphis.
Okay, so you saw. So
I'd seen it. He had changed up the jokes a little bit. Clearly he had saved the Will Jada stuff for the end of this one. It was more toward the end when we saw it live as opposed to the very end. And he had some more jokes that he cut out. Like the way he ended it on Saturday night was by saying, and people asking me, why didn't you fight back? And he says, because I have parents, because I was raised, because my parents taught me not to fight in front of white people. When he did it live in Memphis, he added onto that. He said, I can't fight in front of Steven Spielberg. I'm still trying to get cast in E.T. 2. so it was switched up a little bit, but it was largely the same set. I thought it was good. And I think anything, once a man jumps on stage at the Oscars and slaps you like that, everything's on the table. You can take it wherever you want to take it. You can take it at his wife. You can take it at him. And it's all stand-up comedy. I got a real issue in recent years with people getting upset over what stand-up comedians say. Like, I get stand-up comedians who act inappropriately, like Louis C.K. Do with him whatever you want to do with him. But the idea that you're just getting offended by jokes, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you don't like the jokes, don't watch it. And if you're offended by the jokes, just remember they're just jokes. Relax.
Herky's Wings in the chat. GP deserves another 4 inches. Eggplant emoji. Sounds like a joke to me.
Hooty-hoo! Hooty-hoo! Hashtag bone. Build, organize, nourish, and electrify.
Oh, you remembered it. I thought that E might have had you tripped up.
I'll never forget it now. I'll always know what BONE stands for. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Huck. Shouts to Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening. Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars, nice reviews. Over at Apple, we got to have reviews that reflect the fact that there is more of us than there are of them. Disappointed to hear St. Mary's might be of them. That's a little deflating, but maybe goes hand in hand with being computer trickers.
You're finally putting it all together.
Maybe I'm connecting some dots here, Maybe I'm connecting some dots. There is more of us than there are of them. Like Norlander said, as of right now, we have 2 1-hour shows starting at 4 p.m.
As
Eastern
of now.
on CBS Sports. It could be. We might have a meeting tomorrow and they say, you know what, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's
very much out there.
This is not a good idea. Nothing. This is not a good idea. But as of right now,
I can't wait for us to have to hit the hard outs for the commercials. That's going to be an adventure.
Baby, I've been doing it for years.
I know that's the thing. You actually know
see me
what
go
you're doing.
Radio host mode. It's going to be. You guys ain't even going to recognize me Tuesday.
Nope.
You're not even going to recognize. I'm going to get us in and out of the breaks. I'm going to be on time. You're not even going to know what you're watching. It's not even going to seem the same. We'll talk to you. Conference previews.
Monday.
At the very latest. Tuesday at 4 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Till then,